Intro music.
Wait, that's not it.
What?
He's no good to me, Dad.
Intro music. Intro music.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
It might just be a complicated profession, but you know what? Today, being a podcaster is not a complicated profession because
No way.
it is quite the show here for Bantha Milk Podcast. Welcome. Hey, Rob. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Nick? What's happening, buddy?
If I were any better, I would be the little guy sitting behind you right there. And do you have
I
new
know.
wall art back there?
I
see
do.
some stuff I didn't see last week.
Yep. I have two pistols back there that I made a while ago. I 3D printed those.
Oh, you 3D printed those? They look
Yeah,
great.
Thank you. And then up above the Bantha Milk, there's a Yoda design that I did in 2018. Somebody asked me to make one in 2018.
Okay.
And below it says, "Do or do not. There is no try."
Well, it looks great, man.
Thank you. I found that file and I printed out another one. So
I love it. I love it. Hey, man, if you need the materials for another one to put right back here, let me know. I will go and get what we need to. Right, but we're here once again with another episode of Banter, Beskar, and Bantha Milk. We are a Mandalorian podcast, and if you are a Star Wars fan, this has been the week for you.
I know my Disney stocks have gone through the roof. I have
Yeah.
no idea why.
But it's
All
not
I
even
know
just Star Wars, right? Because Marvel had a big week, and
Marvel,
Disney's
yeah.
just having a very big week, right? So we are
Yeah,
here
man.
to break not only all that down for you, because it could be a show all of its own.
Right?
But on
For-
top of that, we had the penultimate episode. Rob is over there playing with our media over there, but we had the penultimate episode of The Mandalorian Season 2 today, The Believer. And it was a doozy, and we've got a whole lot of stuff to talk about with that as well. So we are going to get to that. We've got a lot of stuff to break down. But first, it would be great of us to not neglect the fact that this is Banter, Beskar, and what? Bantha Milk.
Bantha
So
Milk.
what's your Bantha Milk of choice today, Rob? Is it the same as it's been for weeks?
I had a 4-pack. So
All right.
this is the fourth one of the 4-pack of the blah 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 IPA. So next week it's going to have to be something new. But since you were so impressed with this last time, now I can't do it. Here we go. Oh my gosh, the tab is like all the way down.
Oh, but there it is. But
it
you know
is.
what? When you're in the podcasting world, sound effects are everything. And when you can get a real authentic sound like that, I mean, that's just great.
right.
I'm on my bourbon whiskey as always. We're kind of keeping it real and keeping it loosey goosey today because we got so much to talk about.
We do.
But we would be drinking more Star Wars themed beverages. We just need your help. Right. So we need you to go ahead and check out our social medias, right? Social media platforms. I wonder where they can check out our social media platforms. And we can finally start talking about The Believer. All right.
Believer.
So we've got our news out of the way, and people have waited 40 minutes to hear our breakdown of this
Yes.
episode.
So this
Chapter,
is it.
what is it, 15?
Spoiler alert, chapter 15.
Yeah, if
season
you're-
2, episode 7.
If you're 15 minutes in or 40 minutes into our podcast by this point and haven't realized that there are some spoilers coming at you, then I don't know what to tell you, friends. It's time to do some soul searching, right? Because
It
we're about to
sure
get
is.
into spoiler territory. So if you have yet to see the most recent episode of The Mandalorian, Chapter 15, The Believer, please make sure you check it out on Disney Plus, right? And press pause here, go check it out, come right back, and we're gonna dissect it. But we're gonna hop right in because we know that's what you're looking for. So
That's
Rob,
right.
where do we start this episode?
So first, I have a question for you. Who is the believer, and what is the believer?
Yeah, that is a good question because I was thinking that I watched it twice today, and after the first episode, first watching, I looked back and I went, all right, so who are they talking about? I'm not really sure. I'm assuming it's probably Bill Burr, right? Bill Burr has got to be the believer in his cause, or else I don't know who else could be the believer.
Yeah,
Someone
'cause-
smarter than me out there maybe can tell me.
Because that's what I was thinking, like the whole thing too. Like, because last week's episode we were like, oh, what was more upsetting?
What was the
What-
tragedy, right?
What was the tragedy? Was it the ship getting destroyed or the child getting abducted? Like, what was the tragedy here? So then now the question is, who is the believer and what is the believer?
I mean,
And-
there's a lot of different theories you can throw out there, right? You can talk about Mando, Kyle, Din being the believer, right? Because he's an adherent to this Mandalorian code, and we do see him stretching and breaking that code during this episode, right? You can say that.
It was a very, very philosophical episode.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting that they used Bill Burr as their philosopher,
As their
right?
philosopher.
Like the loudmouth Bostonite is the one who's dropping the most knowledge bombs.
he was
in the
dropping knowledge
episode.
left and right. That's right. So In my opinion, the episode was. We're gonna break it down into 4 parts. Part 1 is the breakout and the setup for the heist.
Sure.
Part 2 is the heist. Part 3 inside the base, because that had some very very philosophical moments in it as well.
Sure.
And then the last part was the big finale.
Sure.
So
The escape.
the escape and all that good stuff. So going into the heist, the first part, they're breaking Bill Burr out of jail.
They sure are.
And you see the same ship or the same style ship, the same prison ship is floating above the planet. That Bill Burr, last time we saw Bill Burr, he was locked in there because Mando tricked him and locked him up when they were trying to do it to Mando. So we see Bill Burr digging away on some old TIE fighters. You see some X-Wing jet engines and another AT-AT crane. So
yeah, we're seeing a lot of these Walker cranes
Yeah.
in this series here.
So they definitely reused the Walker crane quite a bit this season. There was no flamethrower sighting this episode.
Not a single flamethrower.
Not a single flamethrower.
Well, when you spend half the episode not in your Mandalorian armor, I guess it's tough to squeeze it in.
It's tough to
Right,
it's tough to use it when you don't even have it
So-
on.
So we've got this security droid who like is very, very businesslike. He's like, "Listen, Bill Burr, it's time for you to go with the nice lady." And he's like, but why? And he's like, "Listen, I'm gonna take out my boomstick here and smack you a little bit, unless you go
start
with the
walking.
nice lady."
Yeah.
And he's like, "All right, sure,
So
I'll go with the nice lady."
I think our word of the week should be 34667.
34667. All right.
Yes.
So if you, and that's not even a word, that's several numbers, right?
Several
34667. If you are one of our diehard mega fans out there, we've got Murgatroyd, we've got Sassafras, and we've got 34667. That is our designation for the week.
That is the word of the week. The number of the week is 34667. And if you watch the episode, then you know what 34667 is as well.
That's right. Inmates
So-
34667.
That's right.
Prisoner 34667.
So we
Go with Marshall Dune now.
Go with Marshall Dune now. What? You tell me what I'm doing. So Bill Burr was great. With his Boston swagger and his Boston accent, it was really cool. So I loved Boba Fett comes down out of Slave One, and he.
I thought you were another guy.
Yeah.
First of all, Boba Fett has a new paint job.
He did. He took some time. He got his armor back. He took some time to clean it up, make it look nice and shiny. Still
Sure.
has the dent, but other than the dent, everything else is.
You got to wonder what sort of a slug left a dent in a Beskar helmet.
I know, and that's why he doesn't want to get rid of it. He wants to remember that helmet saved his life.
That's right.
Makes sense to me.
Sure does.
So he cleaned it all up. Bill Burr thought that he was Mando, and then he goes, "I thought you were the other guy." And then Mando comes down, and he's like, "Oh crap! Here's the other guy."
Oh, hey, buddy.
Oh, hey, buddy.
How you
Hey.
doing?
Hey, we're friends, right? So they take him I like the line, "What's in it for me?" And she's like, "Well, you got to change
A
the
nicer
scenery."
view, right?
A nicer
Yeah.
view, yeah. So then he says, "Okay, well, I can keep."
But again, I think that's another Western trope that we've been kind of tracking, right? This, break out the outlaw to help you. What's his motivation? His motivation is that he's got to sell with a nicer view.
yeah,
That's a pretty classic trope.
yep,
And so is it worth the nicer view? He's been working on TIE fighters. It seems to me like he's been doing some hard labor. So
Yeah.
maybe he's ready for a little bit of a cushier sell.
yeah. Until he finds out then that he has to break into Moff Gideon's ship and get Moff Gideon's codes, and he's like, "Just take me back. It's much easier that way."
Yep.
Um,
But yeah, they say he's got to go to Morag, right? He's got to go to
Morag.
Morag, and they've got to go. First of all, they had this conversation up where the Slave One, and the Slave One has been one of my favorite ships for a long time.
oh yes,
But it was great to see because I've the longest time had some serious questions about the Slave One. Like it is docked, it is on its side. People are just kind of laying back like that, right? So we got to see some of the mechanical workings of the Slave One, and apparently the cargo hold is movable, right? So you can
Right.
sit in the cargo hold when the ship is in its upright position as well as its landed docked position. And I guess there's some gyroscopic mechanism that keeps the cargo hold in its upright position.
Yeah, pretty
Never
cool.
knew that until today. So there you go.
So I was overthinking this, and I was thinking, okay, he's got to have some kind of sleeping quarters and a back tube on there as well.
Sure.
So are they also part of the gyroscopic, or
Listen, I would certainly hope that the back tube is part of the gyroscope.
yeah, because if he's laying down sideways, that back tube is going everywhere except for where it's supposed to go
Oh, yeah.
until he stands back up again.
Yep.
So
So yeah, we get a little shot of the interior of the slave one. We get a little dialogue scene in there, and we get a little more information on how the mechanisms of the slave one work, which I think is really great.
yeah.
By the way, for the last maybe 6 or 7 episodes, we've been trying to remember the name of the place where they film that big room. It's called the Volume.
The volume, yes.
Yeah,
the
right.
volume.
So we can pretty much bet that a lot of what was filmed today was filmed in the Volume, right?
Yes.
Which is this enormous sound stage that they have. I guess I don't know if it's at Skywalker Ranch or what, but it's where they're doing their filming. It's this kind of state of the art facility for shooting, right? So definitely saw some stuff going on at the Volume, and I think the theme of today's episode was redemption, right? Because we have this guy Mayfield, right, and so we're supposed to remember last season, and last season we were introduced to this sort of gang of kind of jerks and degenerates,
Yes.
and we're led to believe Mando was like this at one point, right? This was his crew at one point. This was the people he kept around him, right? So Mando was like this at one point, and I think that they were kind of kept around to show how much he's grown.
Yes,
Right?
I agree.
Mando was not the only one apparently who has grown, and I love that they're not making black and white characters. There's gray area.
Yes.
We've got Mayfield, who's like this jerk. He's loudmouth. He's brash. He's a Bostonite. But there's gray area to him. He's not just a bad guy. He's not just a good guy, right? We see a lot of the humanity behind him, and we get sort of this philosophical question, right? Answer this week of, can a bad person feel remorse? Can a good person do bad things? Right? And so, again, Star Wars kind of pushing the envelope morally speaking.
Even Cara Dune a little bit came to as well. Because think back to when she met Queel, she was ready to kill Queel basically because he worked for the Empire.
Right.
And then she meets Manfield this week, and she was like, "You work for the Empire. You're a jerk."
Right.
And even her at the end, she has a small little bit of evolution as well. So Manfield says we have to go to this planet. Apparently, this is the only planet that he knows of where he can go into this base.
Mayfield.
Mayfield.
Right.
What did I say? Mansfield?
Manfield.
Yeah, Mayfield. So he takes us to this really cool planet and
Morag,
and they're what were they mining? What was the name of the Rhodium or something like that?
I think Redeem. You know what's funny is that I was watching an episode of Clone Wars today because my wife has still not. Pagan has been on this show a couple times and she knows a lot about Star Wars, but she hasn't seen Clone Wars or Rebels yet, right? And so we've been watching Rebels together. And season 1, like episode 5 or 6 today, there's that explosive volatile chemical that was used today in that episode.
In Rebels,
so,
yes, it was in Rebels earlier,
was
and it was
definitely
in the same red canisters that they had in the back of the trucks. Yeah.
Yep. And so I think it's Rhodinium or Rhodesium, something like that. I forget right off the top of my head.
Yes.
But it doesn't really matter. The big thing is here's this MacGuffin for the Star Wars characters to move, right? It doesn't matter what's in it. Here's an explosive thing that our main characters need to get from one place to another. That's really the only point of this stuff, right? And so obviously Mando has to take his Beskar armor off and don the armor of a stormtrooper. And boy, does Bill Burr make a big deal out of this, right?
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's, again, some of this philosophical conversation that they have in this ride in about, you've got these rules just like everyone has, but just like everyone, your rules change when things get desperate.
Yes.
Are you supposed to keep your Mandalorian helmet on all the time, or are people just not supposed to see your face?
Yep.
What is the rule?
He says your ideals change when they need to, which is awesome because, he was like, "What is it? Just your Mando helmet, or is any helmet? Like, what's the deal? Like before, you wouldn't even take off your Mando helmet. Now it's okay that you're wearing this stormtrooper helmet instead." And then even as we get further into the show, we see that even Mando changes his mind. Kyle changes his mind about that as well.
But I think that's the point, and I think that's a great thing that Filoni and Favreau are doing is that, Din has this code. He has this code that he lives by. He's lived by this code his entire life.
Yep.
But here comes this small little green dude named Norman, named Grogu, who sticks a wrench into everything he thought he believed.
Yeah.
Right. And so he thought he believed that this helmet was him. He looks in the mirror, and meanwhile, by the way, I don't understand. This helmet is me. I don't take this helmet off, but I'm still going to shave so that I've got a mustache.
I have this perfectly
Right?
trimmed mustache.
I'm going to keep my mustache just so I can see it. 'Cause
I
know
like
it's there.
the way I look with this mustache. When I take my helmet off to brush my teeth at night, I like to see this nice, wonderful mustache.
He shaved
yes.
here. He shaved here, but not here so much.
Not here, no. Left the mustache. I like the way
So
that looks.
again, he's got a personal code that
He
seems
does.
to change based on what he's dealing with, right?
Exactly.
But so it was cool to kind of see them. And we talked last week about the Mandalorian armor basically being his superpower, right?
Yes.
He puts on this armor and he's impregnable. But what is he without his Mandalorian armor? And I think we got a little preview of what he is without his Mandalorian armor this week. And the answer is he's still pretty good.
Yeah.
He still can handle his own without his
Yeah.
superpower.
Because when we get into the second stage, I guess, of this episode, where the heist, we were watching like Grand Theft Auto or Fast and the Furious.
Sure.
Or even if you want to go Western trope, you got old train heist, stagecoach
for
heist,
sure.
whatever you want to call it, somewhere in that area. So it was fun watching him fight the bad guys, the pirates.
Right, who were actually fighting the Empire.
Yeah.
So like they're
because-
probably okay.
Yeah, like you're on their land. They were the Native Americans, and the Empire was the the cowboys.
Right.
Which the Native Americans were bad because they were here first, and we want this land. The Empire was doing the same thing. We want this Rhodinium, whatever it was called. We're going to take it. The people who lived there were like, you're on our land. This is our house. Get out. So they're just trying to force the Empire out, almost even like Avatar.
Sure.
The movie Avatar as well.
Sure.
So it was pretty cool. So,
and they bring that up too. Mayfield makes a point of talking about the natives, and we'll talk about Operation Cinder in just a sec, and all the implications that has. But as we're riding in, we do get like just kind of a preview about the sort of predicament we're in, which is this sort of moral predicament, like who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and. Without getting too far ahead of ourselves, we do get into sort of that implication once they get into the base where it's like, all the stormtroopers were jazzed. They were like, yeah, you did it, guys. We're saluting you.
You're the first ones that made it back. Yes.
And these are just the grunts, right?
Yeah,
We talk about Finn in the new movies, and he was just a grunt who turned. So like how many of these people, it's like the old adage of the Death Star from, was it Clerks?
Clerks,
where they talk about, there were all the, you figure you got the bad guys on the ship, but you've got also thousands and thousands of contractors who are just trying to collect a paycheck, So we got the same thing with this sort of thing. So it's really interesting to see. But even before getting into that, we have this whole heist scene where Mando has to prove himself without that armor.
And it was fun watching him fight and watching the Imperial armor just explode on contact with people were hitting him with staffs and stuff, and the armor's breaking, and you can even see like his reaction is like, oh, I have armor on, and then it like breaks, and he's like, what the heck? Like,
yeah, he's not used to his armor being so
my armor's
pregnable.
not supposed to break like this. What are you doing?
But he definitely has a certain Batman energy to him.
Oh yeah,
like if you watch Christian Bale and like the Batman Begin movie or whatever, like he's got like these very specific moves where it's all power. Like the Christian Bale Batman is not super agile. He's not necessarily like doing, but like he's just got like these like really specific direct moves that like deal max damage.
Yep.
And that's kind of what we're getting from Mando here. He's using kind of his his vam braces. He's blocking stuff with it, and he's just dealing power blow after power blow.
Yeah.
Throwing spears at people. It was a great little fight scene without his Mandalorian armor.
Yeah, great scene, great way to defend his truck that he was driving on, and a lot of really cool scenes. The thermal detonator that they stuck to the bomb, and then he picks it up and he throws it. It blows up the first pirate ship, and then the next.
And then you
two
see the guy
behind
just looking at it like,
Yeah.
oh God.
Oh no! And then they get blown up also. So great action sequence, but you also see like Mando as they're driving past the village, like he sees the young kids in the village, and you can tell that he's missing Gorgu, and he's missing his little friend and his son, even as Cara Dune called him. She said they took his son. So yeah, so you can tell.
And I think he might see a little bit of himself in these kids in the village too, because
Uh-huh.
flashback to season 1, we get these visions of him as a child hiding from the droid army,
Yeah.
and being saved by the Mandalorians. Here he is, a Mandalorian. They don't know that, but here he is riding in, and they're kind of looking at him with this distrustful sort of, "You're an outsider. We don't want you here."
Yeah.
Even though they don't know that he's there to kind of help. So it is really interesting to see that him from that side.
Yeah. So then they make it back into the base, and everybody's celebrating in like a Top Gun, almost the end of A New Hope, where everybody's celebrating the victory.
But it's the
Like-
bad guys this time.
But
And
it's the bad guys.
It's cool how they do that too, because the bad guys don't know they're the bad guys, especially the grunts. Like we'll talk about the officers' mess hall in a second, because that guy knows he's a bad guy.
That guy's
But-
a jerk. Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a good guy. But these stormtroopers and these everyday grunts who are just enlisted men, they're probably like, yeah, our buddy got in. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Like we're sent here to get some of this stuff because we need this stuff. So these guys finally got the stuff back. They're the first ones to make it back. So yes, for them, we're very happy. Yay, we got it back. So it was interesting. And for a second there's another one of those typical Star Wars tropes where everything looks bleak, and then at the last second, who comes to save the day? But
The TIE fighters.
2 TIE fighters saved the
TIE
day.
fighters. The first time we're happy to see TIE fighters
Yeah.
in Star Wars history.
So you cheer, and you even see Mayfield cheers for a second there also, because he's like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a great action sequence. I felt like I was either playing a video game at that time or even watching like a lot of the later Fast and the Furiouses are filled with
Yeah.
a lot of explosions and car chases and stuff
Sure.
like that. So that
And
was
again,
pretty
all
cool.
on a TV series budget, right?
Yeah.
So they're-
Yeah.
They're really managing to make it work.
Yeah. Totally.
I guess
So-
when you've got Mickey Mouse budget, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I guess when it's the flagship show of a whole new network, they're gonna throw a little extra money at you.
Oh yeah.
So then they get in, and then Mayfield says, "Okay, I got to get the thing, and it's over there, and I'm gonna go in, and nope, I'm gonna come right back
Nope.
out again."
Yeah, it's like
Peter.
that GIF from The Simpsons where he comes out of the hedges and then right back in.
right
You're
back
just,
into it again. Nope.
Nope. So
And,
yeah, he sees his former commanding officer.
We forgot the part that
Oh, that's right, Max.
what
Right,
Max
so
wrote
Max,
to us.
right out in Illinois, right? He's mentioned to us, right? So we have Boba Fett made a great little comment there, right? Where they're talking about who can go in and like kind of go undercover, and Boba makes this snide little silly comment. I think they might recognize my face, right? And that's
So the funny thing about that, at first, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, because, he was friends with Darth Vader. Okay. But then after Max wrote that in our Facebook page, then I was like, wait, and I like slapped myself in the head. I'm like,
it was only 10 years ago where every single stormtrooper had your face.
had
right?
your face. You were every single face. So somebody's going to be like, why is there a clone walking around here? So that was
Yeah.
really funny. That was a great line.
Yeah. They're doing great things with Boba Fett this season for sure, right?
Yes. So then we get in and
we have Mayfield go in and back out, and he says, "I can't do it. That guy was my officer. I can't do it." And Din goes, "I'll take care of it." The big thing here that was a big tell for me was Mayfield saying, "Oh, it has to scan your face." Gee, I
Right.
wonder if we're going to see Kyle's face again this season.
okay, so this is the worst security system ever
Yeah, right?
because
We're going to
He-
scan your face. I don't recognize you.
but okay, go
But
ahead.
okay, sure.
Like
And I
you're-
think I understand what they're saying. It's like, all right, we cross-check you with the Republic database, and if you're in the Republic database, that sends up a red flag, right? Sure, great. Just
But-
seems like they should have a little more safeguards than that.
shouldn't it only be people who are enlisted in the
Yeah, if you
Empire?
If you can make it clear that if they're on the Republic database, they should be exiled.
Right.
Maybe you should have a database of Imperial faces that scan.
Right. So only Imperial faces can scan. But since this guy's worn a helmet every day of his life since he was 8, his face was fine.
You know what it is, though? It's the mustache.
It's the mustache.
Yeah,
It's
without the
totally the
mustache, he would
mustache.
have been screwed. But he's
Yep.
good to go.
Yep, because of that mustache, he was a-okay.
And
So
and
yes,
so we get our facial scan, and he's just a-okay because Star Wars and stuff like that. And then we have our officer.
yep.
Our officer pops over and introduces a little chaos into the equation.
Valen
it
Hess.
Yeah, Hess, right?
Hess.
Valen Hess, and he says, "Hey, who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm a driver." What do you mean you're a driver?
What do you mean
What
you're
does
a
that
driver?
mean? You
Yeah.
don't know what you're even talking about.
He's like, what? Let's go, soldier. Tell me your number. So, real quick backstory on Valen Hess. His real name, Richard Brake. He was Joe Chill in Batman Begins. Ironic that you mentioned Batman Begins. He was the guy who killed Bruce Wayne's parents.
Wow, I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
Wow.
he had a much bigger mustache in Batman Begins. But yes, so he was Joe Chill. He was also the Night King from Game of Thrones.
No way.
Yep.
Wow. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan. I'm really bored, really bummed with myself that I didn't know that. I've got every
Well-
book. I've read every book like 7 times.
He wasn't wearing blue and white paint on his face, and he didn't have.
But
Zabrak and
that
horns and
actor,
stuff.
I knew that actor had to be something, right? Because he was way too interesting and intriguing to be just some random guy, right? So he played that character great. He got this really interesting Southern drawl, right?
Yep.
That was like almost endearing. It was like, oh, that guy could be my grandpa,
Mhm.
except he's twisted as anything, right?
Right.
That is not the grandpa I want. So
So he was totally
he was an Empire
brainwashed
man.
by the Empire. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
an Empire man through and through.
Right. Mayfield comes by. He rescues Din. He's like, listen, man, I know you have your face mask on, but I got you. Your brown eyes.
Yeah, I love Mayfield covered real nicely for him. He was like, "Oh, this is my officer. He lost his hearing in the Battle of
Tanab, right?
Tanab." Yep.
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
it's great, too, because he was fully calm, cool, and collected here until he wasn't.
Yep.
Until he wasn't, right? But,
Yeah.
So, yeah, they say, all right, let's get a drink. Let's make a toast,
Uh-huh.
right?
And
So
then
they get to talking. And that's
and
when
then-
things go bad.
And you can see Mayfield as they're talking. He's like, "What should we talk about? Should we toast to the good times and to
The
this and to that,
Empire.
to the
to
Empire?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they decide to toast to Operation Cinder.
So
Right.
Mayfield brings that up because
Yeah.
you can
So-
tell at this point he's angry. He's angry at Van Hess or Valen Hess
Valen Hess, yeah.
because Mayfield got out. He left. He knew that the Empire was bad. He did his thing. He left. He's out. And now he still sees that his boss, his old boss, who was a jerk back in the day, is still in it and thinks that his stuff doesn't stink. And that made him irate.
And again, the mention of Operation Cinder, I think, is just so cool because it's, again, tying in all these different forms of media,
Yep.
right? So if you're like one of the diehards, you know that Operation Cinder was featured in Star Wars Battlefront 2, right? It was the Emperor's contingency plan, right? It was, all right, the Emperor died. What do we do now? And Operation Cinder was that contingency plan. It was, all right, the Emperor has passed. This is what happens to the Empire once that happens, right? So it's really cool that they're tying that in. It's really cool that we know that Mayfield was a player in Operation Cinder.
Yep.
Right. And so they don't give a whole lot of concrete clues, but they do drop enough information on us to know that whatever happened during Operation Cinder, this guy, this officer, he made some decisions that were not popular.
Nope.
They were pretty controversial, and he probably cost the Empire a lot of lives. But he describes them as heroes of the Empire.
Right.
Which
So-
is not the first time we've heard that term.
No.
Right. I forget when else we've heard it, but we've heard heroes of the Empire before.
Yes.
I think it was during Rogue One. I think director
Could be,
Krennic
yeah.
mentioned heroes of the Empire before. But so like, again, it's this brainwashing of like, yeah,
Yep.
I killed thousands of my own men, but
I
they
did it
were heroes.
because I killed 15,000.
Right. It was the greater good. And he
Yes.
mentions with what you two managed to bring back today,
Mhm.
we can make Operation Cinder look like nothing.
Like, look, yeah. So,
And we start to see Bill Burr's eye go a little.
he starts to twitch a little. He starts to get a little trigger happy.
His facial expression, like,
He was awesome.
listen, you can talk about Bill Burr and his acting. He's a great comedic actor. He's a great comedian. He's a great smartass. But the acting that the acting chops that you need to pull off the facial expressions during that conversation, like you could see the distress and the sort of the mental sort of peaking. Like his brain was tweaking and he was going, this isn't right.
Yeah.
So-
He's like, no. He's like, this
And
guy.
eventually something snapped.
Yep. And it was awesome because he finally, Bill Burr got to the point where he was like, you don't have any remorse at all. Like, they were my friends that you killed, their families. You didn't care about their families. You didn't care about my friends. You didn't care about all the people on the planet that you killed just to prove a point.
But
And he
that's
was
the
like,
great thing about Bill Burr too, is that, you know, when we started talking about Bill Burr on this podcast, it was like, you know, Bill Burr wasn't a Star Wars fan. He kind of made fun of this. This isn't his thing. But he is not only playing his character really well, he's bringing some humanity to it. Like,
yeah.
Like I'm buying that Bill Burr buys this character, even though I know that before this, Bill Burr wasn't a huge Star Wars fan. He kind of
wasn't a fan
made
at
it
all.
as he mentioned that it was kind of silly. He kind of made fun of it, but he's bringing his acting chops to this, you know, and he's bringing some humanity to this. And mentioning again, I talked earlier in the episode about redemption. This is what would seem like an unredeemable character. He's got so many personality flaws. And you see in even the very beginning, we get flashbacks from that season 1 episode where, do you know what you're doing? And he says, do you think I care what I'm doing right now? And yet we see he does care about this. He took part in this. It was something that while he was doing clearly 10 years ago, whenever it was, he did it, but he was tortured by it.
Yes.
Right. And so, here he is hearing one of his commanding officers at the time talk about it. And it's clear that this commanding officer doesn't care at all.
Nope. He was bragging about it pretty much. He was like, yeah,
heroes of the Empire.
Yep, they're heroes of the Empire. Yep. He's like, because I don't care. I didn't die. I was up on my ship and I said, you know what, you guys, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm going to kill everybody on this planet. And if it's my people too, then I don't really care.
Yeah.
And that made Bill Burr go nuts. And it was awesome. Like,
and they reminded us at that point, by the way, in case you forgot, Bill Burr was an Imperial sharpshooter.
he was a sharpshooter.
Right.
Yeah. Because
he wasn't just anyone, because
Nope.
every shot he hit, it was like, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're
took out
dead.
6 guys. He took out 6 officers in like 5 seconds.
Yep.
Before Kyle could even realize what was going on, he killed 6 people already.
I love he killed this guy, and then there's this guy still holding his tray of food. He's like, is there something I ought to do here?
He's like, oh crap, what just
I
happened?
think I'm off the clock right now.
Yeah, he's like, this is my lunch break. Should I report this? What should I do? And then
Too late.
too late. So
So
that was a
Mayfield
great-
opens up, everyone dies, and then it's it's time to go.
It's time to go because now everybody else on this base wants to find out what all the excitement is in here. So then they
climb out the window.
They climb out the window.
Because thankfully there's a conveniently placed window right there.
And a ledge.
And a ledge.
Yes, because most windows
right
don't
where
have ledges.
Kara and Fennec
just
happened to be aiming.
But let me tell you, talking about sharpshooters, those two ladies, they were sharpshooting left and right. They were doing a great job as well. So those two girls with guns was very, very impressive. Wait, I'm sorry. One very important line that we skipped over. We have to get back to it. When Kyle was talking about when he was being questioned by the officer and Kyle didn't know what to say, when Bill Burr came over, he told him, "Let's go, sir. We have to go file those TPS reports."
That's right. He did say that, didn't he?
He said those TPS reports.
What a strange crossover.
So
Office Space and Star Wars.
Yep. So here we go. So I knew TPS reports was from Office Space. I thought it was from a couple other things after Office Space as well. So I looked it up. So first it was used in Office Space in 1999. One of my favorite comedies.
It's a great
such
movie.
a great movie. So then after that, they used it also. So Mike Judge wrote Office Space.
Sure.
According to the film's writer and director, Mike Judge, the abbreviation stood for Test Program Set in the movie. In the movie, multiple managers and coworkers inquire about an error that Peter Gibbons makes in omitting a cover sheet to be sent with his TPS report. Oh God, what a great scene. Then they use it in King of the Hill, also produced by Mike Judge. 2015 puzzle game, Please Don't Touch Anything, featured the question, "What is a TPS report?" as one of many hidden clues that lead to a unique ending. In Lost, Season 1, Episode 4, John Locke's boss says, "Locke, I told you I need those TPS reports done by noon today."
Wow.
And then finally, in Ralph Breaks the Internet, a TPS report is visibly hanging in one of the cubicles seen during Ralph's viral video montage.
Okay.
However, it was incorrectly placed in a cubicle in the accounting department, where TPS reports are not functionally relevant. So it was in 4 other shows after it was in Office Space.
And right back here in The Mandalorian.
And right back here to The Mandalorian. So
Beautiful
I loved when he said that, I stopped, I rewound. I go, please don't tell me he said TPS reports. That is awesome. And sure enough, he did. He said TPS reports. I was like, that is the greatest line ever.
Yep. So they have their drink, right? They toast to the Empire. And then Bill Burr loses his mind.
He loses his mind.
And they crawl out the window.
But
right,
before they crawl out the window, he picks up his helmet and Bill Burr gives it back to Kyle.
Yeah, that was a really interesting thing that happened there, right?
Yes.
So there was this understanding that Mando and Mayfield came to, where Mayfield's sitting there just kind of absorbing and kind of like a sponge, just taking on all this and growing and his and then all of a sudden he breaks and he kills everyone and he goes, "Hey man, we all do what we got to do. I didn't see your face."
Yep. And he gave him his helmet back to put his helmet back on. He says, "I never saw your face," which was awesome because it showed, once again, going back to the humanity of Bill Burr. He was like, "Look, you did what you had to do. I did what I had to do. And now we're even. Let's go." And I never saw your face.
That's, again, part of the beauty of what Jon Favreau and Bill Burr and Dave Filoni have been able to do is this gray area. There has been too much black and white in Star Wars, good guys and bad guys. And I think, I don't want to give too much credit because as I watch it, I get a little more upset every time. But this weekend I'm watching Rian Johnson's The Last Jedi. Right, and we see DJ, right? This character who's this sort of black and white character. He's good, he's bad. Is he on our side? Is he against our side? And Star Wars is doing a whole lot more exploration into what it is to be a good or bad guy. It started way back with Knights of the Old Republic, for those diehard fans out there, with Jolie Bindo, right? Jolie Bindo was this gray Jedi, kind of the first canon gray Jedi, who wasn't a Jedi, he wasn't a Sith, but he was a Force user with a lightsaber who lived on his own and used the Force when he needed to. right? And so this idea that not everyone is good or bad is something that I think needs to take more hold in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right? There are people who are good. There are people who are bad. And there are people who are a blend of both. And we need to embrace that and kind of show that more, not just with Imperial sharpshooters. I want to see more Force users who are real, not just paragons of light. I feel like Ahsoka is that so far.
Yes.
Ahsoka is our Jedi who's not a Jedi, right? She does what's right. She follows her moral compass, but she isn't necessarily plagued by this. I don't want to put it as plagueis, but as this dogmatic view of the Jedi.
Right.
Right. So I think Mayfield is maybe kind of our entry into that a little more, but I do hope that Star Wars story writers go more into that, because nobody's black or white. Everything has a gray area.
Sure, exactly. Speaking of gray area, as all of this is going on, what I really liked most was the fact that even though Boba Fett was there, we didn't see him at all. It wasn't a Boba Fett story. It was a Mandalorian story, which is what I am happy to see, that they're not relying on Boba as much as they are relying on Mando to carry the show.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what they're going to do with Boba. A lot of people theorize that this is going to be Boba's redemption arc and we're going to see him die. I hope we don't. Boba's an important part of Star Wars, and I would love to see more of him in other stories.
Sure.
I don't necessarily need to see him as a super important part of this story all the time.
Right.
But I would like to see more from him, because he did a good amount of stuff in this season. And they have expanded upon a legend in Star Wars in a way that is really satisfying.
Yes.
So you're right. They didn't make it about Boba. There was a little Boba, and Boba definitely had an impact in what happened today. But this was really Kyle or Din's journey.
This is his story. And
the most important thing that Boba did in this episode, which I think was amazing, was the seismic charges.
Yes.
Right. We got to see, and I think everyone, as soon as they saw some TIE fighters chasing after the Slave One, they thought back to episode 2 and went, he's got them seismic charges. He's got to use them. Right.
That was so awesome. And it's such an iconic sound.
Man.
Yeah.
I remember watching the movies in the movie theater, and you hear, and you do hear that silence. Like you're in a movie theater and you're hearing Dolby sound and everything's huge. And then all of a sudden there's nothing.
It's hear the ships, and then silence, and then whatever that G chord is or whatever it is on the guitar, and then just blowing up.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely, and it kind of reminded me of the scene from The Last Jedi, where Admiral Holdo, I think it was Admiral Holdo, right? She moves her ship and she puts in a light speed into the Juggernaut, right?
Yeah.
Juggernaut. And we have that moment of just complete silence before we hear that sound. And it's that same sort of, there's something about the sound of silence that really does something.
It's very powerful. Yeah. When you don't hear anything, you're like,
because too much of Hollywood is about sound, right? We need to hear sound effects, but when they use that silence as an effect, it's really cool. So we got these seismic charges, and we were really excited. We saw those TIE fighters blow up. We got to see Mayfield blow up the entire station, right?
Yeah, and we also got to see, very important Star Wars trope, Mayfield and Mando running on top of the building and jumping into Slave One, which happens all the time. There's always somebody jumping into a ship.
I was fully expecting Mayfield to die. If I'm being honest, I thought, all right, Mayfield had his redemption arc. They're going to kill him, right? They didn't. I was surprised.
Well, they did kill him.
Right. Mayfield perished in the explosion,
Mayfield perished. So he was once again proving his sharpshooterness. So apparently all the good guys are all sharpshooters. He shot the one tank.
One shot, one kill, man.
Luckily, the doors were left open on those bombs, the Rhydinium back there. He got it right in there from a moving ship from 700 yards
and it's
away.
a really good thing that Boba didn't decide to right the ship at that point. Right? They're all just on it. it's floating completely horizontally
Yep.
at this point.
Perfectly.
And he's just in there like, come on, guys, get in the ship
Get
so I
in
can
the
get out
ship.
of here. And they're like, nah, we're going to shoot this thing real quick.
Yeah, so it was very cool. Very cool for him. And then talk about wonderful acting. Fennec, he shoots it. Fennec goes,
Good shot.
good shot. And then Cara Dune goes, oh, okay.
Gee, I wonder if that's going to be important later on.
She was like, so he didn't try to sabotage us? Huh, what do you know? So, yeah, so then, fly away, sonic charges, totally awesome, boom, boom, boom. Then it's the final scene where they're all there, and, we find out that Mayfield is dead, which Trey says to me, Cara Dune and Kyle are very dumb. I go, why do you say that? He goes, because he was standing right there when they said that he was dead. How dumb are they? They don't even know what he looks like. And I was like, yeah, you're right. They are pretty dumb that they couldn't, whatever. So that was nice of them to. But even then, Bill Burr was like, so I can go.
You telling me because I'll go.
I'll go.
I'll go if you want me to go.
If you tell me I can go, I'm out of here. But I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm leaving.
Which is funny because here's Bill Burr as Slave One is leaving Morag. How's he getting off this rock?
Right.
They just blew up the Imperial station nearby.
Right.
And you gotta figure, like, think about each of the I try and put each of these planets into like Earth, right?
Yeah.
So let's just say you're dropped on Earth.
Yeah.
Here's your space station you're placing. Oh, by the way, we're gonna blow this space station up. Go find another place on Earth to find a way out.
Go, yeah. Or even worse, like, I'm sure he doesn't speak whatever language they speak on that planet.
Moragian.
He doesn't have any money at all because he was a prisoner and then they just picked him up. So he has nothing to his name. And he's like, cool, I'm going to go this way. I'll see you guys later. So he walked away. They flew away. And now the final transmission,
I love it,
to Moff Gideon was great because
it's taken.
Once
Liam
again,
Neeson.
Yeah. Once again, in the previously seen on The Mandalorian, they totally like set you up for this because they tell you exactly what Moff Gideon said to him, and then Kyle uses the same line back on him when he says, he means more to me than you will ever know, which is the same exact line that Moff Gideon used to Kyle, but instead of he said it.
Yeah.
It means more to me.
Yeah.
And then Kyle said he means more to me. So he took Moff Gideon's line, gave it right back to him, and basically said, I'm coming for him, pal.
And again, it's humanizing Kyle, right? It's saying, hey, here's this character who has been historically fairly stoic. He doesn't care much about much. He's got sort of his code, but he's a lone runner, right? He's on his own. But here he is saying, you took this from me, and he is more important to me than you will ever know. Not because he's got midichlorians in his blood and he can resurrect the but because he is my son.
He is my son. You took my son. I want him back. He means
my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Prepare to die.
Right. So it was the perfect setup for a season finale, man. Like it was essentially Mando taunting him. Like, hey, remember that time you talked to me? I'm coming for you. It was him saying, I'm on your house now. Get ready.
I know where you are. I'm sending you a transmission letting you know that I'm coming for you.
That's
now,
right.
That being said, this whole story arc is very reminiscent of the Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
So, who will the seven be? At first, I thought, well, especially when we were bringing back Mayfield, I thought he would be one of the seven. But since they let him go, basically, they're not going to turn around, go back to that planet and say, let's go. We need you. So we have Boba Fett, Kyle, Cara Dune, and
Fennec
Shan. So we have 4. So we're missing 3. So are we going to see Ahsoka come back? Would be pretty
I don't
cool.
know that we are. I think it's possible, But I do think that whole Ahsoka arc was setting up her story.
Her own story.
I think she's done. Because I think having a Jedi is a little bit too much tipping the scales.
Okay.
Right? I mean, it's unless they're going to be a Sith on the other side coming in for. I think a Jedi is too much. So I think we're going to see Bo-Katan and her 2 friends. Right, so that pretty much finishes out the 7, right?
So that would be the 7, but we could see Carl Weathers again.
I think we'll definitely see Carl Weathers again. Whether we'll see the Frog Lady and her husband again is left to be debated. The Frog Lady. But I think we will.
That reminds me, my friend sent me a really bad meme-ish video.
Okay.
It was basically setting up everybody to go to battle. Somebody took
the Infinity War, right?
The Infinity Wars,
yes.
Yeah. And they put all of the Star Wars Mandalorian faces over top of all the Infinity War characters to get them set up for battle. It was pretty funny. So
So I think definitely those are possibilities. I don't think we're going to see Queel again. I think Queel is gone. I don't think we're going to see IG-88 or IG-11 again. I think IG-11 is gone.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, next week's going to be an interesting episode.
It will be an interesting episode, that's for sure. So it'll be setting up the big finale. So, and that was the other thing that Moff Gideon said. Hold on. Okay, so Giancarlo Esposito,
right,
told. So this is a misquote. Somebody took half of what he said and then added a whole other twist onto it.
Okay.
So he was in an article talking about his daughters. So he said, "My 4 daughters watch The Mandalorian, and obviously the word is like, it's the Baby Yoda show. And I'm never jealous or have any problems with that. But I have to say, 2 of my daughters texted me, and 2 of them called me. Papa, please don't hurt that baby. Don't hurt that baby." And I said, "I will squash that little big-eared jerk." Giancarlo Esposito, a.k.a. Moff Gideon from The Mandalorian. That's what he told his kids. Now, that's not exactly what he said. They did ask him that, but he did not actually say, "I'm going to squash that little big-eared jerk." But, I like that version of it much better. So that's the one that I'm going with. So there we go. So
listen, man, I've seen him in action as Gustavo Fring on Breaking Bad, and I know he's got a heart of coal. All right.
Oh, yes, he does.
I am fully prepared for some pretty excellent Moff Gideon stuff. Right.
So there will be a lot of.
There is one episode left this season. I think we just got news that there is a release date for season 3.
Okay.
And it is Christmas 2021.
Oh. We have a whole year.
So we're going to have about a whole year after next week to just sit and wonder about what's to come.
Yes. Now we do know that Moff Gideon is in season 3. So that being said,
did we know that?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know that. All right, so Moff Gideon isn't. So we know that Giancarlo Esposito is confirmed.
Giancarlo Esposito is confirmed for season 3.
All right, so we can only assume that next episode we're going to see our boy Kyle battle Moff Gideon with that spear.
Yep.
Do you think he'll have his armor on?
Yeah, because he had it in. They packed it away in Slave 1 when he went into. So, we won't see him in Stormtrooper gear ever again. Maybe look in the confines of Slave 1 next week and see if we can see some the helmet just sitting on a shelf somewhere. That would be pretty funny. But yeah, he's definitely gonna have his armor on. He's gonna have that Beskar spear, and
we'll be Beskar spear versus Darksaber.
That's right. If Boba Fett can fix up all of his armor, I'm sure he's gonna have all new weapons.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a big, amazing showdown, and I hope, especially knowing that we're gonna have to wait over a whole year, that we don't see little baby Kyle over here in handcuffs at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I can't imagine they're gonna leave us in suspense, right? Like it's gonna be Friday night next week, and you and I are gonna be sitting here talking, going, I can't believe they're leaving us for a year, wondering about X, Y, and Z.
It's going to be the end of Empire Strikes Back.
That's
where
right.
Everybody's like, what? That's
Yep.
how they ended it? So, yep, that's definitely going to be what happens, because then season 3 will be Return of the Jedi, and it'll be everything's restored back to the way it should be. So, yep. So don't be surprised if you are highly disappointed at the end of next week's episode, because everybody's not happy and playing with unicorns and rainbows and stuff like that.
That's right. But there we have it. That is
it.
our penultimate episode for
Yeah,
the
man.
season. Episode chapter 15, The Believer, right? So just as a reminder to you all, we want to hear from you, right? We have one more episode coming up, but after that, we're not done, right? We're going to have plenty of Star Wars breakdowns for you coming after The Mandalorian's over. Right. So please make sure you check with us at banthamilkpodcast@gmail.com. Check us out on all your social media. Right. Comment, like, subscribe. Those are all those things that you're supposed to do, right?
Please do that.
Send us emails, send us drink recipes. Send Rob sweet nothings in the middle of the night, because every now and then he gets lonely.
That's right.
He's sitting there with a little Grogu in the background going, I wish my fans would send me some letters.
That's right. Send us an email. Tell us hi.
Right.
Tell us how much you love us.
Next week's our season finale, so make sure you check out the Mandalorian season finale next Friday. And make sure you check us out wherever you get your podcasts, right?
That's right.
I think that's about all. I mean, it's been an hour and a half episode. We have broken
yes.
down an awful lot this episode, Rob.
We sure did.
Do you have anything left to say to our millions and millions of fans?
I think I'm spoken out.
Yeah, so make sure you check us out next week, ladies and gentlemen. We have more Star Wars news coming at you. We have more Mandalorian news coming at you. And once again, from me and from Rob here at Bantha Milk headquarters on the internet, we have spoken.
We have spoken.